Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is the Two Tokens podcast, and today we are here with Joanne Zaaijer and Michel Chatelin at the beautiful office at Osborne Clarke, and we will be doing the third session of the Digital Energy Masterclass, but that's not why we are doing this session. Michel, you've been a long-time partner of the Power of the Many working group, and maybe you can introduce yourself and Joanne.
Thanks, Alex. Yes, I'm particularly, excited today because we're having this masterclass in-house about digital energy. And that notion of what digital energy is something that keeps me busy for the last couple of years. And we can talk about it, what we really think digital energy is. But here within Osborne Clarke, which is a international law firm, I'm responsible for the energy and infrastructure practice, and looking at the profile of Osborne Clarke as a law firm with a strong focus on data and privacy and technology. I think it's the excellent location to combine digital aspects of the energy sector with the sector knowledge of the energy sector itself. So.
And Joanna, you're new to Two Tokens and to Power of the Many, huh?
Yes, so very exciting.
What is your background in data and digital?
Yes, I had the data protection team here at Osborne Clarke in Amsterdam. I'm a privacy lawyer since about 12, 13 years now. Back in the days, this was only a very small topic. We received, I think, 5 questions maybe on a yearly basis. And nowadays, that's completely different. It's a topic that, drives our team. We're with 6 attorneys now. And it's a big thing these days, privacy and data protection.
Yeah, so the whole GDPR is something that you live by every day.
I know it by head, yes, indeed.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here. I'm with 2 lawyers in the room. I have to admit, I impersonated as a lawyer at the Bilbao show a month ago, where I stood in for digital energy presentation that you were supposed to do, Michel. But
yes, thank you again. And you enjoyed it,
I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah. So, and I must admit, sometimes I wonder maybe I should have had a different career choice years ago. We talked about that before. But can you explain what we see as digital energy? Because it's a broad concept, and we refrain from using the energy token, narrative. But what does digital energy, in your mind, entail?
Yeah, I think if you look at the energy sector, and then in particular the network-driven sectors like electricity and gas. In pure essence, it's very physical. It's a world of where electrons and molecules are being transported or produced and transported through cables, wiring, or pipelines, transmission stations, switchboards, all very, very physical. In order to make those systems, let's say, smart, what we call smart, you need to add an additional layer, which is the data layer, so a communication layer. Where you collect data by metering, by measuring outputs or inputs, and also where you include sensors so you can generate data from that system. And that addition of the data layer to the physical layer, I think that's where it becomes digital energy.
And this digital twinning, that's something that you live by every day, I'm sure, right?
Indeed, yes. So digitalization in general is of course something that we see a lot. Lots of businesses are transforming their business models into more digital business models, I think more businesses acknowledge that data is the new gold, as they tend to say, the new oil, and that you can achieve a lot of value from it. And this is a big driver, I think, of the trends that we see in practice.
So do you also explain, because in English there's 2 words for digital, right? So you have digitization and digitalization, and there's a little nuance between the 2. Do your clients understand that nuance?
The majority, I would say, yes, I think so. Yeah.
because with the tokenization of value, we really ran into that nuance, and we noticed that if you talk about a digitization, which is making something analog digital, that's easy. But as soon as value is involved, where value tokens are involved, or money or assets are being digitalized, it's digitalization. And then you have different laws that are, and so that's why I'm asking. And we see this with the energy token, of course. If we have a kilowatt hour token, and that all of a sudden becomes a means to pay, all types of questions arise. And because you are in the European sandbox, Michel, can you shed some light on that?
Yes, the European Sandbox is a project where use cases from the token economy are being tested basically in front of all sorts of regulators within Europe. So you can think about financial regulators, let's say hardcore financial regulators, to tax authorities, to energy regulators from all over Europe. So the questions that arise from those use cases, they can be put in front of these regulators, so you get some kind of feel of how they look at those issues and what the issues are. And the use case that I'm involved in is the one, the power of the many use case, which is based on a project on the island of Ameland, where the local cooperative there has the ambition to collectively produce energy, share energy, with the people on the island and amongst the people on the island, and trying to achieve a balance of demand and supply on that island, and doing that by using digital tools like tokenization of the assets that are involved, but also tokenization of the energy that's being generated.
And share that energy among each other, or use it as a payment?
Yes. So in first instance, by having your share in a collective production asset, where a part of the output is allocated to you as a participant. So first of all, it's about sharing that collectively produced energy. But then, if you cannot use it yourself, if you don't need it, you're then able to share it with other members in the community. So you share it within the community. And if the community doesn't need it at a certain moment in time, you can store it within the community, or you export it to the grid. So the vision we have in the future is that you can actually then exchange the tokens you generate that are not used at that point in time within the community, that you can exchange them with other communities. So it's peer-to-peer within the community and community to community eventually.
Right. Yeah. And now we get to your specialty, because if two businesses that are competing in that same community have to share their energy data,
Yep. They might be a bit hesitant, yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Well, maybe it's good to give some context to this data sharing topic, because this is not something we see in the energy sector only. It's part of a more broader trend driven by the European Commission, European Union, and in different sectors like the healthcare sector or the financial sector, you see that parties are a bit more familiar already with this concept of data sharing. They're already doing it, and it's not that bad as they thought it would be. So hopefully the energy sector can get a bit of a peek in those sectors to see that it might not be as frightening as it may seem. And of course, we have a lot of data laws in place which are protective of data and of personal data in particular. So it's not the case that you just have to open your books and your systems and give it to your competitor. That's not the reality, luckily. But the aim of this data sharing concept is to increase and enhance cooperation and ultimately societal benefits, of course.
Well, I think the biggest GDPR case is, of course, in healthcare, I think. And in healthcare, they tried lots of things in the last 25 years with electronic patient dossiers, and there they developed a federating protocol, and data federating instead of sharing everything in one place. And so I think there's a lot that we can learn from it. I believe it's called IHE,
Yeah.
And that's been implemented for healthcare in over 100 countries worldwide.
Yeah.
Perhaps this is something we could learn from for other sectors as well.
Absolutely. I think that's a very good example. Another example is the European health data space, where data of a lot of different parties and institutions is combined into one big data pool, a bit similar to what you just discussed, Michel. Organizations like universities, researchers can benefit from that pool of data to increase or improve their treatments, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, this is exactly what we covered in the Token Economy Masterclass, because as all the data in the edge is being tokenized, you see AI picking that up and starting to do things with it. But we need to set the ground rules, how we manage the privacy, and
Yeah, it's important to keep that in mind, of course. Whenever you share personal data, then restrictions apply, and it's not something you can just easily do without thinking about it. You have to take a certain amount of steps to make sure that you share data in a compliant manner. That's something to be aware of, and not just the GDPR applies. Also, numerous other laws are relevant, like the cybersecurity laws or the AI Act. And it's something you have to carefully think about and set up processes and policies in advance prior to the moment that you're required to share data based on the new Energy Act, for example.
So do you think, coming to that regulating the regulatory climate here in Europe is preventing innovation? Is it slowing down innovation?
I tend to disagree to that. I think the current legal framework leaves sufficient room for innovation, actually. It's something you have to be mindful of, the current rules and requirements you need to comply with. But as soon as you check the boxes, know what you need to do, and actually do it, then a lot is possible. And I see that it's sometimes used as an argument to not take action or to sit still and wait what competitors do, but that wouldn't be my advice. I think a lot is possible as long as you are aware of the requirements and take the required steps to comply with them.
Well, being the devil's advocate, when we were in Bilbao discussing this with lawyers from Spain, Italy, and if you look at the laws that we had to think of, it was MiCAR, for crypto asset regulation, financial, MiFID II, we had to think about that. Then there was also tax law that we had to think about. We had to talk about GDPR. So, of course, not being a partner at Osborne Clarke, but I think this is great for Osborne Clarke, but the clarity for the industry is not there. So, so don't you think that if we want to speed up innovation and adoption, that we should, how can we accomplish more clarity on this? If you look at the example of Spain, in Spain they said, everything within a 2-kilometer radius, you can do whatever you want. There is no DSO involved, no grid fee, no tax. Do whatever you want. And actually by royal decree next year, it'll be 5 kilometers. Do you think that would help any of you to speed up adoption? Because we are waiting for a lot of laws and a lot of clarity on that. Hence this masterclass today.
Now, I think that there's an important difference between, the regulations as such preventing innovation or the unclarity about them. And I think it's mostly the latter one that is a problem at the moment, if we can call it that. And I think that's easily fixed by, making people aware of what they should think of, what the rules are, what different kind of acts and regulations they need to have in mind. And that's, of course, something where we can play a role. We love to provide information or to publish articles, provide additional clarity. And I think this is also a topic that the European Commission is more aware of nowadays. They presented the Digital Omnibus just a few weeks ago with the aim to simplify certain regulations like the AI Act. So this is something I think we can fix. Looking at the rules as such, in my view, they don't prevent innovation.
Yeah, this sandbox, we've been in 3 cohorts of the European sandbox, and it ends after the 3rd cohort, but we were part, as only organization in Europe, we were part of all 3, as you know, Michel. But now they're going to not do a 4th cohort, but it's going to be the Digital Omnibus. but basically taking the lessons learned from the 3 cohorts. So I'm sure we'll hear about that at the session that we will do with them. But it's still, I'm trying to find a way how because of course we need to educate the industry, we need to educate people. How do you see that?
Yeah, well, I think I want to echo what Joanne says also in the energy transition, because it's not too long ago that all those decentral energy initiatives were thought of and actually were initiated, and the outcry of most of the people was like it was basically a statement that law prevents this energy transition. So I literally did sessions with hundreds of people that took these initiatives, and I asked them, so you all say there's the law and legal rules prevent this energy transition, but can you tell me which laws are actually blocking this innovation? So we did this couple of these sessions, and I listed all the objections, and the vast majority was indeed unclarity about existing laws. So people just didn't know how it worked, and at the end of the day, there were only 2 laws, which was the requirement that you need a license to supply a small consumer, and that there was a energy tax also charged for production generated elsewhere and then transported to your home. Those were the 2 things that were actually the objection. And all the other points that were raised was unclarity. So clarification, yes. And with the sandbox, my experience is when you then apply financial regulation to this innovative concept of tokenization of assets, it becomes, for me as a non-financial law specialist, also very complex. I think laws and regulations and regulating certain industries, it's a bit complex, unfortunately, by nature. But to say per definition that regulation kills innovation, as people say, I mean, that's also...
of course, I like to ask questions that spark discussion, but needless to say, if you look at surrounding continents, America, China, it's a whole different ballgame, right? So, and we have major societal challenges to address. So, and of course, Europe being 25, 26 countries with different laws and everything. So this is the only way we can operate. And we've had 80 years of peace. So I get all that. At the same time, we do want to make sure that we speed up adoption.
Yeah.
And,
I see that point, but I can only, let's say, talk for the energy sector. That also we had these experiences or basically pilots that were done, experimental space that was created, that certain parts of the regulation would not apply to a certain project in order to experiment. And that kind of space, you hear people talking about it more and more. I think that's something to think of. You can either do it by creating this space where certain rules don't apply, or just agree with a pilot project, and we consider it as a pilot, like you see in the TU Delft, for instance, and then the regulator will not enforce. So...
And what we did in Scheveningen, which was also kind of interesting.
Yeah, although that's also legally outside the regulated field. But there are some. Yeah, I do see the point that people say we need to create some space, so to say, to experiment or to innovate. Mm-hmm. But you can, you can do it at a certain location where those rules don't apply as such a thing, or the question is, do we really need to create this regulatory space?
Well, I think first and foremost, and that's why we're here, we need to educate people, and we need to take them by the hand and just try things, fail fast and correct, right? And that's why we're doing this masterclass. That's why we do these sessions. That's why we do, the first mandate of the Power of the Many working group, it was still called the Energy Token, was to tokenize the asset. And based on the results we came out of that first mandate, several companies started a company, right? They're tokenizing solar panels, and they're out there doing business. And so that's what we as a group intend to do. And so we need to educate those people.
Yeah, there's no real impediment. I mean, if you look at the energy markets from where we come from, where we need to go, we mentioned that you need to add this data layer to it, so to make these grids smart or make the assets smart. And that's needed in order to take the next step in the energy transition, where we have increasing need for flexibility because we have grid congestion. So you need to have these flexibility services that are being offered. You need to be able to manage groups of producers or off-takers in a way for which you're going to need digital tools. And in order to enable that, data become more and more crucial.
The data is a new gold.
Yes, but the concern was and is that the access to the data for all the new business models is not facilitated good enough. So that's why on the European level that was recognized and legislation was adopted, basically forcing the member states to facilitate this access to data in a non-discriminatory, transparent and efficient manner, so to say. Because put it that way, most of those data are at the moment collected and kept by the grid operators, which are monopolists by nature. So to deal with monopolists, generally speaking, is a challenge. So that needs to be facilitated. And to do that, we have now new legislation coming into force in the Netherlands as a part of the Energy Act, which is a whole chapter about energy data. And I think that's going to enable everybody to at least get access to energy data and have clarity about how do we deal with energy data? How do you get access to it? Where are they stored? How are they being accessed and disclosed?
Yeah, so in the Digital Energy Masterclass, the second session was all about data, but in more particular also about all the protocols that you see in the grid. And we're trying to come to a more coherent protocol layer, which is a major undertaking because you have you have so many of them. But is that something you are working on right now?
Well, that sounds more like the technical aspect, or if we call it protocols. But we are lawyers, so we are about rights and obligations of I think first of all, data owners, the people who own those data, to generate the data, to protect their position. And then the interaction of those data owners with the entities that collect the data, and then the other entities that store them. And then it's all about rules to access those data and make sure that if you have those data, that you need to disclose them. So it's all about producing the data, collecting those data, storing the data, and
so who owns my smart meter data?
You do.
Doesn't feel like that. In my wallet.
Exactly. So soon, under the new regime of the new Energy Act, we will have a new entity being established in the Netherlands called the let's say a data exchange entity, as the law calls it. We're going to call it het normo. And they will have the role to allow you to do a request to get access to your own data. So you can submit as a data owner, a data request to het normo and say, give me the data, give me my data. And then that request will be passed on to a registry manager, a grid operator or a metering company, and then they have to disclose all the data you have. And I'm going to tell you, it's much more data than you see on your invoice. So that's really interesting. But it's reality as of 1st of January that you can get access to your own data.
Is everybody aware of the new reality?
There's the topic again. Awareness. I think for me that's difficult to answer. I think people who actually have a legally defined role in this data sharing system are aware or are becoming more and more aware. The deadline is approaching. It's January 1st. So just in 3 weeks' time, they need to comply with this new data sharing reality. But the new Energy Act also gives room to new parties that can request data sets from the existing data owners, so to say. And yeah, I think we can have some improvement in that area. I think not many parties are already aware of their opportunities and rights under this new act. Yeah.
Yeah, Michel is involved in one of the projects that we do with a small industry park. And just having 160 businesses share that in energy data with one another is already quite an undertaking, challenging. Yeah.
But there's one point, because in the energy sector, if we talk about those projects, it's always comes down to this issue, saying we need to collect the data of this group of off-takers, of consumers, and then we can work with those data, and it should be really easy to get this data. What I learned, and Jan can confirm, is that the data owner is leading. So you always need to get permission from the data owner in order to be able to collect the data of the data owner. And that permission, that needs to be given. And perhaps you can say a couple of words of what requirements.
Yeah, so indeed, under Chapter 4 of this new Energy Act, permission is required of all the individuals whose data it concerns, whose data will be shared between the parties in the sector. It's a challenge how to get that permission.
It's just a link would be enough, right?
Well, yeah, then you have this GDPR regulation, which contains quite detailed rules on how to obtain legally permissible consent, so to say. So yeah, a whole system has been set up to ensure that this whole data sharing concept will take place in a legally compliant manner. So people can give permission by using their DigiD. They need to log in to a portal, and it's all very carefully set up with the right checks and balances. But yeah, that's one of the many challenges that the new act involves.
But we've all been in the digitalization space for many years, some a little bit more than others, but 10 years ago was PSD2. Very similar, right?
Very similar.
And we just had to, there was an app for that, and within the app you just, acknowledged. And so why don't we take the lessons learned from PSD2 and implement that for energy?
We might as well. I think for now there is a system that works properly and is ready to go on the 1st of January in a legally compliant way.
What's the name of that system?
Well, this is created by Het Normo. So Het Normo develops a portal and a tool and the whole back office to allow this data sharing
that's good to know.
Taking place.
Definitely. We should spend a session on that. Yeah?
Well, we might as well, yes. But yeah, who knows, maybe in a few years there will be apps and more easy ways to obtain consent, to facilitate the whole data sharing space.
One of the conclusions of the panel discussion we had in Bilbao earlier in November was that it's all too complicated for people. The average consumer is not going to be looking at their use and data and all that. All they want is a lower energy price and being able to maybe even share with your electric car, and that's as far as it goes, right? The average consumer just wants an app.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how we are going to implement it Normo in apps.
I think that will be done from more of a market perspective. So commercial parties will enter the market, will approach the consumers by informing them about their new, business models to make your energy bill lower, for example. And to be able to do so, they need your permission to obtain your data and to analyze it and to put it in their business models and offer you the products and services that they want to offer you. So I think that will be the way it will go in practice. You'll be approached by parties that want to use your data to be able to provide you with products or services that are in your benefits. Yeah. It doesn't really require you to do anything proactively, unless you, of course, want to obtain an overview of your own data, as Michel mentioned.
But you will have to establish identity of the person using whatever digital.
Yeah, but the whole KYC onboarding, there's techniques for that have been used for the last 10, 15 years. So that should be easy. I think it's more something that consumers, they don't know any of this. So it's going to be new. So I think what would help is if you have established brands, offering services and that give trust to the consumer.
Yeah, or new brands, let's say new players that use existing tools that people are like DigiDay or e-canning, like the type of tools that people are familiar with.
Yeah, or old brands that vertically integrate new services. Give an example again, Spain. You're in Spain a lot, but Repsol, big oil company, vertically integrated service where they offer solar energy that is. If you have too much solar energy produced, you can give it to Repsol, and they give you a wallet that you can get free gas. So that's a vertically integrated service, and people do it because they know Repsol, right?
Well, we're going to have that as well here, huh?
Well, Repsol's not here.
No. But
we have other oil companies. Yeah, but that's. I think you're absolutely right. So we, as a group, as a movement, we should educate those consumers, prosumers, and the businesses, I suppose. Yeah. Because what's digital energy going to bring you on your lovely house in Ameland, short term?
It will allow me to participate in a local community and share my part in the production capacity and share the energy that's allocated to me with other members in the community.
Could I also share it using a battery? So that we can have a common battery?
A battery will be part of the project. That can then be collectively used by all the members. Yes, in order to avoid that we...
So before the meter, so you don't pay taxes and...
Well, that battery will be before the meter. And the tax issue, that's something that's on the table. You're putting your finger on the sore spot, right?
Yeah. All right. This, I think we're coming to nearing the end of this podcast. If we were to, so this masterclass digital energy, we're doing 5 sessions in 5 hours, 2 of which are here at the offices at Osborne Clarke. Digital energy, of course, focus on the multidisciplinary game that we see in digital energy. If we were to do another masterclass in other sectors, Joanne, what sector would come to mind for you?
What sector would come to mind?
Yeah.
Oh, there are so many sectors. Data is a topic that is interesting for each and every sector, basically, which makes the work for us very interesting. I think I personally, I'd like to keep my focus on the energy sector because there's so much going on right now, so many developments, a lot of education that is needed. I think that's something we agreed on today. So lots of work, lots of challenges, and it's an exciting sector, especially for me as sort of a relatively new outsider. That would be my answer.
Somehow we managed to pick up something on decentralized finance, which is 2 tokens, token economy, which is something that really is changing the world. And then we decided, let's take something easier and let's focus on energy. And Michel said, yeah, let's focus on energy. And that's even more difficult. Don't you agree?
Yes, on your question, I would also say energy is very, very broad, but mobility, I think that would be a theme.
Mobility as in mobility energy or mobility?
Yeah, mobility in related to energy. So the whole future role of a lot of transport will become more and more electric, of course. I think now, as we speak in China, half of the heavy transport vehicles are already electric. So that will come over here so the next couple of years. But it's a combination of transport, which will run can run more and more on renewable energy, the part of those vehicles or means of transport in the energy system, because they provide storage and flexibility. And then the whole backside of it, that the economic layer that's added to it, that is all it all involves payment services. So your PSD2 remark comes in there, and it's all combined in this sector. So I think mobility is.
Well, the second session with Power of the Many, Elad was there, and it was a very interesting session where basically she kind of painted the future that EVs are going to be the batteries for you, because one EV can power 20 homes, and if we can turn around all those driving batteries into storage for the local grids, we all of a sudden solve two problems all at once. But it takes time to get to the protocols from the car manufacturers, from the grid operators, and it was a very interesting session. I see where you're going with that. Yeah. Well, with that, thank you for today. I look forward to having you behind these microphones again soon, and let's make this transition work.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Let's go for it. It was a pleasure indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No.
That was it for today's podcast. Thank you for listening in, and please subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming episodes. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find our contact details at www.twotokens.org.